My boyfriend announced in front of everyone that he'd upgraded to someone better. I smiled, said good to know, then exposed every lie he told me and left his things at his new girl's door. His embarrassed 2 a.m. call was priceless. But something even wilder happened next. My boyfriend cleared his throat like he was about to give a toast, and for half a second I thought maybe he was finally going to say something decent. We were at Jada's backyard graduation party, the kind with paper lanterns and cheap folding chairs and a Bluetooth speaker that kept cutting out when somebody walked between it and the phone. People had red cups in their hands, the grill was smoking, and I was standing there holding a plate of potato salad I was too nervous to eat because I'd been counting my tips all week trying to see if I could cover my half of rent without asking him again. Caleb put his arm around a girl I'd never seen before. She was tall, glossy hair, little white dress that probably wasn't from Target. He lifted his cup and said loud enough for the yard to go quiet, "Well, guess I should say it now. I upgraded to someone better." There was a short, stunned laugh from somewhere like people didn't know if it was a joke. Then it got quiet in that mean way where you can hear a dog bark 2 houses over. He looked at me waiting for me to crack like he'd paid for the show. I felt heat climb up my neck but my face stayed steady. It was almost weird how steady. I nodded once and smiled like I was the one with the punchline. Good to know. The girl he had his arm on, her name was Bree I learned later, looked at me and then at him like she hadn't signed up for whatever this was. Caleb didn't notice. He was already turning toward his buddies, soaking in their raised eyebrows and half grins. I set my plate down on the nearest table. My hands didn't shake. I'd spent too many nights shaking in my car outside my second job, waiting for a shift to start, staring at my bank app like it was going to apologize. This was just another version of that same feeling. Realizing you're doing the work for both of you while the other person treats you like a footnote. I walked across the yard to Jada. She was watching me with her mouth open. I leaned in and said low, "I'm gonna bounce." "You good?" He grabbed my forearm. "You okay?" "I will be." I took my purse from the chair and walked out through the side gate. The whole time I could feel people tracking me with their eyes like my back was a stage. I didn't run. I didn't slam the gate. I just left. The air on the sidewalk felt cooler like I'd stepped out of a dirty room. I made it to my Corolla before my lungs remembered how to breathe. I sat there for a minute with my hands on the steering wheel, staring at the streetlight that didn't come on half the time because the city kept reviewing the wiring. I'd lived in this neighborhood since the divorce, since Mom moved to Texas and my dad moved into a one-bedroom and started pretending he was fine. I had a way of being left, apparently. I just didn't think I'd be left as a joke. Then I pulled out my phone, opened our shared photo album and started scrolling. Not because I wanted to hurt but because I wanted to see clearly. When your life is a mess, late fees, a boss who's always cutting hours, a dentist bill you keep ignoring, you learn to separate feeling from fact or you drown. And the facts had been loud for a while. Caleb telling me his paycheck was late while he bought new sneakers. Caleb forgetting his wallet for dinners I'd budgeted for. Caleb getting mad when I asked where he'd been after midnight. Caleb saying he'd help with my car repair then showing up with a new tattoo. I had carried him like you carry a heavy bag you're embarrassed to put down in public. I drove home, knees tight, and as soon as I walked into our apartment I knew what I was going to do. Not because I'm some superhero who wakes up ruthless. Because something in me stopped negotiating with my own dignity. Our place was a first-floor 2-bedroom with a leaky ceiling and a furnace that sounded like an old man coughing. I'd found it after my roommate bailed and Caleb moved in for a while. That while turned into 2 years. I worked mornings at a coffee shop and evenings as a receptionist at a chiropractic clinic. He said he was building a brand, which mostly meant sleeping late and leaving for mysterious errands with no receipts. I went straight to the hall desk where we kept mismatched chargers and junk mail, and I pulled out the folder I'd started without meaning to. I know how that sounds, but when you're constantly being told you're overreacting, you start keeping little proof for when your own brain tries to gaslight you. There were screenshots. Venmo transfers to girls with heart emojis in the notes. Text he'd left open on the iPad he forgot was synced. A DM thread where he told somebody he was single because his ex won't let go. Pictures of his brand meetings at bars I'd never been invited to. I'd been collecting these like a person collecting splinters, hoping one day I wouldn't feel the wood in my skin. I didn't plan a big reveal. I made a list. By midnight I had a clean timeline. Dates, names, the money he'd skimmed from our rent jar, the lies he told my friends about me being unstable. I typed it up in plain language like a work email. I attached screenshots. I sent it to our group chat with the people we actually hung out with, not his online hustle guys. I didn't add insults. I didn't need to. The truth was sharp enough on its own. Then I packed his stuff. I didn't fold anything. I didn't stare at his shirts and cry into them. I shoved clothes into trash bags. The gaming headset I'd bought on a payment plan. The watch he loved more than he loved me. His sneakers lined up by the door like they were waiting for a better life. While I was doing it, I kept thinking about how I'd been raised to be reasonable. My mom used to say, "You don't burn the house down because you're mad." But I wasn't burning anything. I was walking out of the smoke. Around 1 a.m. my phone lit up with messages from the group chat. Not the kind where people egg you on. The kind where people are stunned, then sad, then pissed on your behalf. Jada, oh my God. Marcus, he did what? Tina, you okay at home? Want me to come over? Then one from a number I didn't have saved. Hey, this is Bree. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. That cracked something, but not in a bad way. Just in a human way. I texted her back. I know. Take care of yourself. She sent a single word. You too. At 2 in the morning I drove to the address in her Instagram bio. It was a duplex in a newer part of town with those gray vinyl fences and tiny trees that look like they were planted last week. I left the bags in the sneaker box on her doormat with a note taped on top. He's your upgrade now. Please don't bring him back. I didn't ring the bell. I didn't wait. I just walked back to my car and drove home with the windows down, letting cold air slap me awake. When I got back, I collapsed on my bed and stared at the ceiling stain shaped like Florida. My brain kept rewinding the party like it was trying to find a place I should have spoken louder earlier. But I didn't want to rerun the past. I wanted out of it. At 2:07 a.m. he called. I watched the screen buzz on my pillow. Caleb's name, that dumb photo of him holding a fish he never cleaned himself. I let it ring twice, then I answered because I wanted to hear the sound of his world shifting. Yo, he said breathy like he'd been running. What the hell did you do? I told the truth, I said. You embarrassed me. I laughed. Not loud. Just a short sound that surprised both of us. You embarrassed yourself. I just stopped covering for you. What did you send people? Everything. There was a pause where I could hear him swallowing. You didn't have to do all that. I sat up, looking at the cracked corner of my mirror where I'd been meaning to replace it for months. You didn't have to do any of what you did either. Bree kicked me out, he said like he expected sympathy. She said I'm not staying there. Sounds like she heard what I heard. Where am I supposed to go? Not my problem, I wanted to say. But the truth was simpler. Not here. You're really gonna throw away 2 years over a joke? It wasn't a joke. It was you trying to make me small in front of people. That's who you are when you think you're safe. He started talking faster then, scrambling. I was gonna tell you it was over anyway. You've been on my case nonstop. You're always stressed. It's exhausting. Yeah, I said. Being poor is exhausting. Holding someone up while they lie to your face is exhausting. I didn't lie. You lied so much you forgot what reality looks like. He went quiet. I could picture him sitting in his car somewhere, maybe outside the duplex, maybe on a curb with his ego in his lap. Then he said something I didn't expect. You think you're better than me now? I think I'm free, I said. That's different. I hung up before he could twist it into another loop. I thought that was the wild part. The call, the bags, the way the group chat turned into a sudden wall between me and him. But something even wilder happened next, and it wasn't revenge. It was life doing that weird thing where it gives you a door right after one slams in your face. The next morning I woke up to knocking that wasn't his. I opened the door in my pajamas and found the downstairs neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, holding a tray covered in foil. She was in her 60s, always in a house dress, always smelling like cumin and laundry soap. I heard something last night, she said gently. My stomach clenched. I was already tired of being the story in this building. Sorry if we were loud. She shook her head. Not that. She held out the tray. Eat. You look like you haven't eaten in a week. I took it without thinking. The foil was warm. Thank you. She looked past me into the apartment like she was checking if I was alone. Men can be stupid. But you are not stupid. Don't forget. I don't know why that hit me so hard. I'd been called strong by friends before. But sometimes you need it from someone who has no reason to flatter you. Someone who's watched you carry groceries up broken stairs in the rain. Later I went to work and my manager pulled me aside. I got your email about needing more hours, she said. We just had someone quit. If you want them, they're yours. I stood there in the break room with the burnt coffee smell and the vending machine humming, and I almost cried out of nowhere. Not because more hours solves everything. It doesn't. But because for once something moved in my direction without me begging. That afternoon I called my landlord and asked about moving to a smaller unit when my lease was up. I called the clinic about a payment plan. I sat down with my budget and didn't feel like I was doing it for survival the way I had before. I felt like I was doing it for myself. Caleb texted a few times. Apologies, then anger, then a sad little, "Can we talk?" I didn't answer. I didn't block him right away either. I just let his words sit there like spam mail you don't open. A week later I ran into Bree outside the grocery store. She was by the carts, hair in a messy bun now, no glossy dress. She saw me and hesitated. I could tell she was bracing for something ugly. I didn't give her that. I walked up and said, "Hey." Her shoulders dropped. "Hey. I'm sorry again. You already said that." "He told me you were crazy," she said quietly. I realize now that was a script. "Yeah," I said. "He hands those out." She nodded, looking at the pavement. "I'm glad you sent what you sent. If you hadn't, I don't know." There was a moment where we were just two women in the parking lot, both a little bruised, neither of us the villain. I didn't feel like hugging her or becoming friends or any of that. But I felt something like peace. "Take care of yourself," I said again. "You too," she said. "Look, lighter. Like you're not carrying him." I smiled for real this time. "I'm not." On the drive home I rolled the windows down even though the air was sharp. I passed the park where Caleb and I used to sit and talk about our future, which mostly meant his future and my patience. I didn't feel a dramatic triumph. I felt tired, steady, and kind of amazed by my own quiet. When I got back to the apartment, I opened Mrs. Alvarez's foil tray and ate standing at the counter. The food was simple and good. My phone didn't buzz. The furnace still coughed. The bills still sat in a stack. Nothing had magically fixed itself. But I had this new strange thing in my chest. A sense of room. Like the space he took up had cleared out and air could move through me again. Like I could make choices without shrinking them to fit somebody else's ego. That night, I looked at myself in the cracked mirror and said out loud, "You're not stupid." I said it once more softer. Then I picked up my planner, wrote down the extra shifts, and started mapping a life that didn't need an upgrade to be worth anything. And for the first time in a long time, it felt not just possible but mine.